Let's see if we can have a question from there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your input and your sharing your ideas with us. The question I have is, you've talked about university, high school recruiting and doing that process there. Do any of your companies have a program and have been successful or unsuccessful in going after the 30 and 40-year-olds that realize they've made a bad career decision to help them get through the retraining and reprogramming, like you're supporting colleges and funds? Have any of your companies had experience there in turning those 30 and 40-year-olds to the process control automation people we need?
Anyone? Go ahead, Kurt.
From the automation perspective, we have taken some out of the military with a couple of disciplines that we focused on to bring them in and be able to train them and directly convert them to specific jobs that we have. We've looked at some other areas, and we're trying to find a way. It's almost the advertising problem. There are many underemployed folks that made bad college career choices or whatever, but we can't seem to get them interested enough to want to come into the manufacturing segment. They still view it as a negative thing. So we've held some job fairs. We've done a number of things. We just don't get the conversion rate that would make anything that you could say, boy, look at this program, it's a success.
We have made quite positive experiences, specifically with veterans. So we have earmarked about 10% of our openings for veterans. Last year we hired about 600. And what we are seeing is two areas. One is challenging service tasks, where you have to work under lots of pressure in a small team. Excellent experience that we received there. And the second element, what we did with several colleges together, we started a program to train veterans on PLM software. We donated the software and again time, similar to what John said before, and train veterans on the software. Also there we made very, very positive experiences.
John?
Helmut, I'm glad you mentioned that. The military is a good source. And for those of you who don't know how it all works, in the U.S. military anyway, the soldiers have a military occupational specialty. It's called an MOS. Mine used to be 35E20 for the trivia buffs. And what we have is you can map those military occupational specialties into the kind of jobs you have in your company. And you can actually then provide a website for veterans to go in, enter their MOS, and out pops the kind of jobs that would be available to them at the company and which ones are open at that particular moment. So veterans are a source. I'd say the other way to get some of this turnaround is in the community colleges, because typically somebody trying to turn a career or maybe they made a bad choice and they want to move to something else, they're going to continue to be working during the day and will need to pick up these skills at night. And community colleges are a great place for not only learning technical things, but producing technicians as well as engineers, get them started maybe in a technical direction. So those are just some ideas for the bottom of the bathtub. Is that what? Is
Fill in the middle of the curve.
Yeah, go in the middle of the curve and kind of climb out of the bathtub and get over the wall. So, thanks.
Thanks. Could we have a question here? Sure.
Hi, good morning. Francisco Tacoa from ABB. In talking to some of our customers, one of the concerns that they have communicated to us is the need to help them manage the transfer of knowledge. When you have a baby boomers retiring at an accelerating rate, one of the concerns that they have mentioned is that we have people with 20, 30 years of experience, and the moment they retire, we lose that knowledge base. Is there anything that you can share with us as far as how do you see companies like you helping your customers manage this potential loss of knowledge or transfer of knowledge, for that matter?
Carrie, go ahead.
Well, one of the ways, maybe if any of you saw the talk on Monday that we did with the millennials, Nathan from our team from Dow said what he's doing. So he came in and he got some technical training, some experiential learning, but really is kind of working under an experienced automation engineer. And that's, I think, far better than, okay, let me just dump everything out of my brain and put it on paper, because we try that too. As much as you can buddy up these newer employees with the more experienced on projects, I think that's the best one-on-one way that we can do it.
I would just throw out also, I think companies need to, for the people who are going to retire, provide what we call a glide path into retirement. It's scary. I just did it. It's scary to retire. And to go like completely cold turkey from running like crazy to having nothing to do is something no one wants to do. So there are lots of creative ideas to give people some time to still spend with the company, but also then open up some free time so you're kind of gliding into retirement instead of just going into it. While they're on the glide path, you need to do the kind of things that Carrie's talking about. You've got to take advantage of that knowledge and make sure it gets transferred. And sometimes when the person is on the glide path, they're not anywhere near as concerned about, well, if I train this person, I'm going to lose my job. They've already decided they're going to lose their job. So keep the retirees around. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we started just to get some pilot projects, and we figured out maybe on the engineering level we have some good tools and methods to keep the knowledge. But what is very interesting is that the craftsmen, supervisors, for 40 years somewhere in an area working, they have a huge knowledge, which is not written down in any manual, in any guideline procedure. They just know how to do it. And if you let them just write it down, I mean, they don't know what they know. So we need a structured interview, exit structured interview, and that is what we now doing piloting, that once a craftsman is ready for retirement, sit down with him or her and having a structured discussion over not only one period, one session, many sessions, and you will figure out what he knows or what she knows. So it's not that you leave it just up to them, write it down what you know. You have to structure it, and again, it's very important for technicians, supervisors, and craftsmen, not only for engineers.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and just a quick one on this coupling up. But what we're seeing there is actually if you have reverse mentoring, it works extremely well. So the young individual coming in mentors, for example, on social media, and the more experienced partner is giving really the experience. So it's not only a one-sided information track, but it's really going in both sides. That usually creates just a very different way of collaborating, and then you have the same results, that really knowledge gets transferred.
Excellent. We have a question over there.
Actually, over here, Andy. Over there. Right here.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I think that there are things happening in schools, but they're happening in isolation and not connected to people who are in the industry. I mean, many schools have robotics programs. Many schools have physics laboratories where they actually learn about physical systems and how they're controlled and so on. The problem is that there isn't a continuum between that and how to educate students in a progressive way to get them to be ready for the industry. The people in life science have actually done a much better job. And if you look at the curriculum now in biology and chemistry, they've actually incorporated things about DNA and so on, and they do those things in school, and it's a continuum from school through college to the industry. So there has to be, I think, a different way for industry to interact with colleges and schools to make sure that these point things that are happening become a continuum. I think there are things that are happening.
Yeah, thank you. Could we have...
Just very short, let me comment on this. I think you're absolutely right. Having said this, to have a lot of individual grassroots activities is not bad. It's better than not having them. The question is, how do we get them harmonized in a way that you get really a wave moving? And there I'm really looking forward to the results from this advanced manufacturing partnership that I mentioned. This is really driving this in the right direction, and harmonizing several of these grassroots activities. So let's really, I have very high expectations from this initiative.
Could we have
So-
questions?
I'll go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I'll speak up here for the work that the Automation Federation is doing. There's an entire body of the automation competency model out that we worked with at the U.S. Department of Labor. We also are working a lot with, if anybody's heard of FIRST, which answers the question of how we get down into the third, fourth, fifth graders to start this process in STEM. And then that organization also is working with career counselors. We're working to solve the military occupancy specialty translation from those codes into the automation profession. So I really encourage everybody listening to this conversation. We have tracks going on every one of these topics right now and need help. There are so many things going on out there right now, to your point, that it needs to be a clearinghouse of everybody's got a great idea. Project Lead the Way, FIRST, all these organizations are out there doing great things, but it is fairly regional, and depending on which of the big companies get involved, they can take it different directions as well. So really want to push that the work that the Federation's doing to solve a lot of these workforce development issues.
These are good ideas. There are programs out there. Thanks there. But yeah, we have a question over there.
Yeah, this is Dan Hine at Styron. One of the elements that we've talked about for the last day and a half or two has been the fact that the work we do is really multidisciplinary. We can't know everything about how to solve these problems. And fundamentally, what we're trying to do is improve business performance. What are you doing within your organizations to foster the development of cross-discipline teams so that people feel like they're a part of a solution or a body of people that deliver solutions and that actually are able to see progress in the results that they deliver for the business?
Who wants to take this one on? Yeah, go ahead, Carrie. Try that. Take a try.
Well, okay. I'm on a monolithic project right now. If any of you remember, in fact, we were talking, I mentioned a couple people. I said, remember, I'm the R2 person. We're on the company still running SAP R2. So at Dow, we are actually in the transition, and we can see the finish line moving from R2 to ECC for SAP. But I'm going to say there are some areas, and I'm seeing this so much more in the MES integration area, where we had camps. We had ISIT people who sat over here. We had manufacturing people over here. You know, never the twain should meet. And I think we have forced through this project a much greater integration where these teams are working together, and now through this project, and we're nearing the end of it, can actually also see career opportunities for each other on either side of the house, where people had lived only in these camps. Not only are they seeing the results of working together across automation, across IT, across manufacturing, but can actually begin to see places that they can move even further across the company.
Kirk, could you comment on
the
that?
interesting for us is our execution is primarily project driven. So we're able to take those and form them around a project execution team. So by nature, we bring the controls, the mechanical engineering, the field commissioning folks, the advanced joining and metallurgical folks all onto the same project team. What we're finding is that moving them, we used to do this based on, I'll call, paper-based assignment. And we've now begun the process of moving them into the same room where they share a common space. We're finding that our younger employees are much more flexible with that. They kind of view their life as their iPad and laptop, and they're not really so attached to having the gingerbread all around their desk, which is tough to move. So that's worked out well for us, is to co-locate our resources for execution into the same environment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would add most engineering is collaborative, project-oriented, and requiring multiple disciplines. When you have the opportunity to co-locate, That's fantastic. People kind of rub shoulders with other folks who have better knowledge in certain areas, and that helps everyone. And then also think it's incumbent on a company's management to foster rotation, to force rotation, if you will, as well as foster it in some cases. Now, certain individuals are just not going to go for it. You can't make everybody kind of do, the musical chairs game. But those that really want to grow and develop, you need to have management committed to making those kinds of rotations and then establishing rewards for those who have been willing to kind of dip themselves into different areas to make themselves more broad. So it kind of goes both ways. But management's got to be committed to a cross-fertilization kind of thing, or it's just simply not going to happen.
Go ahead.
I would like to agree to you. I mean, this rotation within even the E&I or automation discipline is very helpful because what I'm leading is a competence center, and the focus is here developing methods, applying new advanced control schemes. But of course, beside that, we have engineering discipline, for example, group engineering, responsible for the big projects all over the world. We have site engineering for the small modifications. We have maintenance groups in automation. So if you let them rotate only in those different areas, they will get already a different view on their discipline. Being in group engineering, you see, okay, we have to take care of maintenance aspect later. So I think this rotation within automation is also very helpful. You don't need to go into another totally different field, but if there are opportunities, let them rotate from maintenance to engineering, to site engineering, back to the competence center. That is also very helpful. I fully agree to that.
I mean, we were joking before about when you were young, would you have taken the mobile phone instead of the car? Well, would have been the only one, so at the time I would have taken it. But it just shows how things are incredibly changing. Yeah. And so while yesterday when we said design for manufacturability, we were happy when we had in the design team one guy from the manufacturing team invited for 2 hours and he could comment on the design. Today the expectation really is when we design a new product that the designer already during the process asks the questions and virtually tests. What does it mean? If I make this change, what does it mean in my manufacturing facility? Sometimes around the corner, sometimes in another part of the world. So this integration, and we talked before about virtual commissioning, virtual testing, this integration is enormous. And this is this extraordinary change that's happening through software, through all of our lives, not only in the private, but of course also in the manufacturing, design, process side. And that's one of the reasons why we are so optimistic about the US leading the next, we saw before, Industry 4.0, for the next generation of manufacturing. And there I would like just to pose the question, what do you think when you look at the top 100 software companies worldwide and their revenue, how much of their revenue is coming from US headquartered companies? Top 100 software companies? 80%? So 20% is coming from Israel, Germany, UK, India, China, Russia, and 80% from the US? One number. Any other numbers?
Any other guesses?
Any other guesses? What did you guess yesterday?
Yeah, 50.
50%. Okay. Any other? Well, you have two intelligent people here in the room. 79%. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Just imagine. I mean, this is just so deep, a base of knowledge in software, which is here based in the US. This is an enormous strength. And with this change we are seeing now, we believe really the US is there to lead this next generation of process automation of manufacturing.
Yeah. On a Monday workshop, Betsy from Exxon brought up the issue of, social media and collaboration. They have obviously, Exxon doesn't allow access to Facebook and so forth, but they have internal collaboration portal. I was going to ask you folks if you do have some internal tools for collaboration and getting other people involved and so forth. Maybe would you like to comment? Do you have something, Carrie?
We do, But we had a really good table discussion on
Yeah,
Monday
right.
that the adoption isn't that easy.
Yeah.
We kind of were split around the table if people were using, say, Facebook outside of work. And then internally, we have a Facebook-like tool for collaboration. And I think the jury is still out. Is it the tool itself that's kind of, or is it our willingness to go out there and post things, and does it feel value adding? So yes, we've got the tools, and when we use SharePoint, we use a number of other tools, but you know, I'm not ready to market a raving success yet.
Oh, excellent.
Maybe there one comment. We tried enormous amount of tools, and they all had this hype, and then after 12, 24 months, depending when the real driver took a new role, it almost died. First time that I really see it now thriving is something we call Technoweb. So you sign up for a certain group of topics you're interested in, and you're not passively going on to it. So you're pushed. You get an information question, can you help me? It has to be one sentence, and there's always a business value. So if you post a question, you always have to say which business value is the answer for you. And it's interesting, you get then, once a month, you get feedback, how many questions were answered. And in average, they get 20 responses, and out of these 20 responses, 4 to 5, they could really implement. And it's really fascinating to see. There's one gentleman in Turkey saying, I'm implementing PCS 7, I have the following question, and he gets then a very specific response from somewhere else in the world. First time that I really see it taking off. So it seemed to be a mix of defining a group and having the push. Just leaving it out there doesn't seem to work. I don't know, Carrie, is this your experience?
That's exactly right. It's the leaving it out there that doesn't seem... You described it exactly. You know, I was in a leadership course a couple of years ago, and we were all excited, and we left, and we were going to use that tool, and it was a hype, and it was... So I think it's got to be that combination. You've got to get value from using it. You've got to get value, and you've got to feel like you're giving some value.
Good.
Excuse me, if I may. I think, as a general rule, I know, for my own company, we've probably had better luck with the social media that is outward-facing, as opposed to anything that's intra the company, just as you described. But there are some really good things going on in the area where customers and suppliers can sort of post a question, have you ever done this with that? And either the other customers or the supplier can comment, and it's a little bit like your dishwasher YouTube video, but it's very specific to the company. And those sites tend to be, or those pages tend to be hosted by the company. They're not actually in Facebook or LinkedIn or any of that, but it is a form of social media that links the companies and their customers.
Yeah.
So there's good progress there.
Yeah. Excellent. I thought we had a question here. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, this is Glenn Pounders. I'm with Shell Oil, and I'm an IT professional, which is somewhat of a minority here at this conference. This is my first conference. And one of the things that really struck me is the gender diversity in the room. So glad to see Carrie here on the panel as well, representing IT. And as you know, IT probably has a lot more gender diversity than this automation industry. So what is the industry doing to attract more diversity, gender diversity?
Go ahead, Andre.
I mean, exactly what you are saying, that is also my observation. I think what we do is we open up Girls' Day in schools. So we go in with BASF into elementary schools even and have sessions just for girls. And we invite them also to BASF, watching the labs. Again, it's more for our core business, for chemists, but we do it also for other disciplines in the meantime. So we open up and we try to educate young girls, hey, this is an attractive field to work, this is an attractive company, and I think it starts then that even girls may decide to go for an engineering discipline. If you look at the universities in Germany, engineering, I don't know, still 90%, 95% male. I don't know. 10 years it was maybe even worse, but it's getting better. and it's a long-term process, I guess, to attract also female for engineering, at least in Germany. But you're right.